Yacht A, my relatives. Hello, this is Mark Charles. It is Friday, June 9th, and I am still nursing my second cup of coffee. It is a little bit lukewarm, but it's not bad. I'm very glad to be home and drinking from my AeroPress again. But I wanted to jump on today and talk about a few things. First of all, as I said in the intro for this, I'm not going to be talking today about Donald Trump. We will discuss him and his charges and the chaos around him maybe sometime next week. But there's a few other news stories I've been watching this week that I really wanted to make some comments on and to just point out some of the things going on. So I wanted to talk about those today. Hey, Mr. Phil Fox, yate, ben, or yate, no, ben, yate, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining. Shantana, thank you for being here. It's good to have both of you on right now. And oh, Sonia, yate, happy Friday. Great to see you as well, Sonia. Thanks for being here. I am very grateful for everyone who's joining me for this afternoon cup of coffee. Usually I would be drinking iced coffee about this time, but I decided I was going to keep my coffee warm. So anyway, before I begin, let me do as I always do, which is acknowledge I'm talking to you from Piscataway lands. It's now called Washington, D.C., but I want to honor the Piscataway as the host people of the land where I'm living. And I want to thank them for their stewardship of these lands. So yesterday and for the past 2 or 3 days, the air quality here in DC has been really, really, really bad. Let me just show you a few photos of some of the air quality that we've had here. There's an article I want to show you. It was in Politico, and it was titled, it came out yesterday or 2 days ago, and it was called Unprecedented Does Not Begin to Describe This Event. Wildfire haze smothers the East Coast. I'm going to put this into the chat right now. And there was one section of this that really caught my eye as I was reading through it. It's talking, of course, about the wildfires in Canada, and there are over 400 of them burning right now. 200 of them, as of yesterday, that are burning out of control. And because of the way the wind's blowing and some of the high pressure, low pressure systems, this is what's been pushing all of this soot and smog down into New York and Washington, D.C., and the northeast of the United States. So this article is talking about how this is very much a symptom of climate change. And because of the hotter temperatures and the drier weather, right now we're seeing these longer forest fire seasons and burning hotter and drier, and it's just a real mess. And one of the paragraphs in this article said it's also the latest manifestation of a trend that those regulators are effectively helpless to confront in the short term. Bigger and longer lasting wildfires linked to the effects of climate change. While those blazes are already catastrophically common in California and other western states, hotter and drier conditions in eastern forests are now facilitating their spread in that part of the country as well. And short of solving climate change, there is not much for federal regulators to do about it. And right, this just paints a very kind of clear picture of this is why we need to address climate change, right? Because what is happening in real time with forest fires and these things that are happening, they're not, it's not just about better forest management. It's not just about we need to have better burn processes and so on. This is a direct result of climate change. And if we want to solve the problem of these forest fires, we have to solve the problem of climate change. And not only is it now that large portions of these forests are burning, which is causing huge impact for Canadians, right? There was a tweet I read yesterday. I didn't copy it, but it said something to the effect of, for all the Americans complaining about the forest fires, think about what's going on in Canada, where not only do we deal with the smoke, but we're dealing with the destruction of our homes and of our forests and of our wildlife and everything else. And right, so this is happening catastrophically in Canada, and it's causing major health problems and health concerns here in the United States because of the unprecedented rise in air quality, or the lowering of air quality. In New York City the other day, the air quality was rated at over 450. This is for particles and the measurement of what's in the air. And healthy air is 50 or less. And New York City was over 400 on Wednesday, and DC was over 300 yesterday. In fact, it was so bad yesterday, I decided to go out and I wanted to take a look at how bad the it looked. I saw the pictures of New York and I saw some pictures of DC, and so I went to one of my favorite places on the mall, which is the reflection pool right in front of the Capitol. It's the same space where we read the Apology back in 2012. That space has always held kind of a soft spot in my heart. I go there frequently when I want to reflect on things or spend some time even in prayer, just think about the things going on in our globe. And I went there yesterday and I took this picture of, if you can see it behind me, I took this picture of the mall looking west away from the Capitol building. And typically you can see the Washington Monument very clearly from here. In fact, here's a picture I took a few years ago from pretty much the exact same space. And clearly you can see the Washington Monument back there and you can see all the way. But yesterday, you could not even see it. It was very, very smoky and you couldn't even make out the Washington Monument through the haze. Then I took another picture of the Capitol, and this is a Capitol picture. Again, over the reflection pool, you can see some ducks swimming by, and you can see just how hazy it is. And I'm just a few hundred yards in front of the Capitol here, not even that far away, and yet it's really, really hazy. And this is a picture I took from almost the same spot a few years ago. Again, ducks are there. You can see the sky is clearly blue, and you can see the Capitol very clearly. In fact, I want to show you this video. I put this video, and I'm trying a new feature where I uploaded this video to my streaming service here, and I want to show you this video, and it's just about a minute and a half long, and I kind of narrate it. But let me go ahead and show that to you right now. Yeah, good morning, my relatives. The air quality in DC is pretty bad this morning. Just thought I'd come and take a few shots down by the Capitol. If you look down this way, the Washington Monument is literally is right there, but you can't see it from here because of all the all the smoke today. But that is where the Washington Monument normally is, and you can see it's completely covered by the smoke today. It is the parts of DC, the air quality is actually over 300. A lot of places around 250. But yeah, this is really fascinating to see how bad it is here. But just thought I'd show it to people. We need to take climate change seriously, my relatives. So that was the shot that I took yesterday. And again, just the pictures that I showed of how bad the air quality was in that area. So, they canceled school events, they canceled other things, outdoor activities, they canceled some Major League Baseball games and other sporting events that were going on outdoors. So it caused a lot of kind of problems and chaos all up and down the East Coast. I'm not even talking about what was happening to the communities that are actually burning and the forests are actually burning in Canada. And so obviously this is a major, major problem. And it's something that, again, if we want to fix it, it's not just about better forest management. It's about we need to address climate change. We have to find a way to live more sustainably. We cannot keep going on as status quo the way we are and expect these things to get better. And if we want to leave a better world for our children, right, a world where these things are not, it's nice right now we're calling them unprecedented because there's really no precedent for it. But over time, it's going to become the new normal. And this is just what we're going to experience on a more regular basis. And that is not the world I want to live in. And that is not the world I want my children to live in. And so I want to encourage all of us to do better. We must do better, and I know we can do better. Another story I wanted to show. That video I just showed you, I loaded that up to my YouTube. So if you want to look at that, or if you want to share it again, even outside of this video, I'll give you the link to the YouTube channel, the YouTube where I uploaded it on my YouTube channel. So that's up there right now. The other story I wanted to share with you, and this goes back to, as you know, on my channel here, a few times a year I talk about the way we get news, and I talk about the challenges that we face with getting our news over our social media feeds when it's kind of fed to us through an algorithm, and how important it is that we hunt our news and we actually go to different news sites, read news from different perspectives and different angles, and really try to inform ourselves in a way that does not just kind of isolate us into a political bubble. And oftentimes I'll go in and I'll show some of the ratings for different news sites and things like that. And if for those of you who have been observing over the past year, CNN has been doing some fascinating things, and they've been trying actually to be a bit more centrist. I'm going to share this article with you. It's an article from The Guardian, and it came out in June actually of 2022. So it came out a year ago, and I'm going to share it with you here. I'll put it into the chat. The title of the article is Why CNN is Shifting Tenor from Partisanship News to a Political Center. And this just kind of, this article kind of explains what's going on at CNN and what they were doing. And they brought in a new executive named Chris Licht. I'm sorry, I was trying to learn how to say his last name. And he was really the one who was tasked with moving CNN much more to the center of the political news stream. And he tried to do a lot of different things. He did some movement with some of the way they did their shows. He tried to bring in a more centrist view on their news coverage, and got a lot of pushback both within CNN and from the viewers. Did a lot of things kind of spectacularly that failed, right? If you remember the town hall he had with Donald Trump the day after Donald Trump was found guilty of sexually abusing people, right? They had a town hall, and they filled the town hall with MAGA fans, and it just kind of exploded on CNN. But this was not just kind of one-off events. There really was a move by CNN over the past year to move from a highly partisan news source to a more centrist news source. And one of the things that happened was after the election of 2020, when Donald Trump is now out of the limelight on a daily basis, right? Much of the partisan news business of CNN dropped because now, right, Donald Trump was really one of their main moneymakers. And with him out of the daily news cycle, more on the weekly news cycle, they just didn't have near as many stories. And they actually were having a hard time getting Republicans to come onto their show because they didn't want to be interviewed because CNN was so partisan. They were often labeled frequently, even by people like myself, as being basically the same thing as Fox News, just on the left instead of Fox News on the right, which they were. And so they brought in Chris Licht to try and move them more to the center. And he talked about the desire for them to be truth tellers and to be able to talk about the news in a much less partisan way. And over the year, a lot of things happened. And if last week, or actually maybe it was earlier this week, Chris was fired. He was let go from CNN. And there was a lot of stories that ran for about a day or two. And I'm going to put one of the stories here. This is a story in the LA Times about how he was ousted after a lot of crises. But one of the main ones was the Donald Trump town hall. But a lot of this, the thing that really kind of moved the needle for Chris was an article that a friend shared with me about a week ago, and it was in the Atlantic, and it's called Inside the Meltdown at CNN, and it was really an in-depth profile of Chris Licht and his time at CNN. And that article came out and it really highlighted a lot of the failings that Chris had while he was there and showed a lot of the challenges that he was facing, and it was fairly critical of him. Now, again, a lot of people who are CNN fans were critical of Chris. And I wasn't actually following his story very closely throughout the entire last year. I knew some things were changing at CNN. I knew they were trying to be more centrist. I saw some of the things they were doing, but I didn't really research it. I didn't really know what was going on. I wasn't even really aware that Chris had been hired. But as I read through the article, and the article does, it points out some of the failings of Chris, some of the things he should have done differently, some things he wanted to do differently. But there was a lot of things about Chris that I actually really appreciated. I really appreciated the way that he was trying hard to change the culture at CNN from being a highly partisan news source to a much more centrist news source. And he got a lot of pushback both within CNN and outside of CNN regarding that. And so while the Atlantic article was really not a good article for Chris, I actually liked it, and I thought I read it favorably, I guess I would say, because I appreciated, even though I would agree there are many things Chris should have and probably did incorrectly and should have done better. But I think the goal he was working towards, I absolutely agreed with. And I'm pretty disappointed that that didn't work. I would have loved to have seen CNN be successful at becoming more centrist and not be basically in the same category as Fox News, which it was and which it is right now. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to change. And so, so this was literally CNN tried to become centrist and they failed. And I'm afraid that they're going to go back and actually go back to how they made money in the first place, which is to fan the partisan flames and continue to allow people from the left to live in a bubble that is absolutely just as destructive as the bubble that Fox News creates for people on the right. So anyway, I encourage you to read those articles, especially if you can read the Atlantic one. Unfortunately, the Atlantic one is behind a paywall, but you might be able to get a free subscription or a free trial so you can read it. It's a fairly long article, but I encourage you to read it if you have a chance to do that. The third thing I want to talk about, and this is a story that came out and surprised literally everybody. So if you follow the PGA, you'll know that for the past 2 years, Saudi Arabia has been starting a new golf league called the LIV, and it got several major names behind it, including PGA golfers. And there was a very strong rift or divide between the PGA and the LIV. And there was a lot of moral questions that were being brought up because it was being funded by the country and maybe even some of the people who were behind some incredible human rights abuses and atrocities. And it highlighted the moral quandary of people who the challenge with the LIV is it paid incredibly well. So people who played on the LIV, their purses were much higher and their ability to win more. They were even paid money to play on the tour. And it was very, very lucrative for the people who joined. But there was this huge debate that was really led by the PGA about how can you go to this other league that is supported by money from Saudi Arabia, and they were the money behind 9/11 and all these other atrocities and human rights abuses and all these things going on. And so there was a lot of stuff that was being said. And then literally out of the blue this week, the PGA announced that they were merging with the LIV. And right, the players were learning about it almost at the same time that the public was learning about it. And it was this complete 180 of what is going on here, right? All the things that the PGA was saying about how immoral it was, and all of the challenges that were the questions that are being asked because of who was backing the LIV and where that money was coming from. And now suddenly the PGA was merging with it. And there was a fascinating article, and again, I'm sharing it from CNN. And I know they're a fairly partisan news source. I just did something on how they failed as centrist. But anyway, I'm sharing this article. I encourage you to read it because it fascinated me. Right. It highlighted how basically the executive director of the PGA, I forget his name right now, Monahan, I believe is his name, who 2 years ago, and a year ago, was basically at the same event where he announced the merger with the PGA and the LIV this year. A year ago, he was blasting the LIV for basically being the money behind, or using the money that was behind 9/11, and how horrible it was, and how could anyone respect themselves who was playing for this league. And now this year, the PGA merged with them. And the thing the article looks at in CNN is about what they call sports washing, which is where regimes or nations or entities that don't have the best reputation use sports to improve their image, whether it's a country like China hosting the Olympics or other things like that, right? Where they're using these very big sporting events and things that get people cheering and excited and really invested in, but they're using it to kind of change the reputation from having political or human rights abuses that go on within these nations. And so it talked about how Saudi Arabia was basically using the LIV as a way to sports wash their image, and how this was clashing with the image of the PGA. And it was fascinating to read the article because it shows you just how clueless the United States of America is about who we are and what we've done as a nation. One of the paragraphs in this said, after 2 years of disruption and distraction, this is a historic day for the game we all know and love. This is Monahan speaking, describing a transformational partnership that would benefit golf's players, commercial and charitable partners, and its fans. And so again, a year ago, he was screaming, how can you let this nation that basically funded 9/11 now play golf and win money from these same people? And now today he's talking about the benefits that this money will bring to golf players and to the commercial and charitable partners and fans. Now, one of the things I've said in the past, right, is the core value of the United States of America is to get as much wealth as you can. The United States of America would rather gain wealth, no matter the cost, and give charitably than live justly and just have less, right? I pointed this out about the United States for a long time. And that's exactly what Monahan is saying here, right? Yes, we're getting all this money, and this is going to help our charitable partners. We can now give more money to them. We can now fund more charities, blah, blah, blah. And it's really using charity in the same way to whitewash or to try to clean up the image of the United States that is now in bed with, again, another country that has all these abuses. But even beyond that, right, even beyond just that dilemma, what about all of the incredible human rights abuses that the United States of America has? Right? It's talking like the United States has this great image, and the PGA has this great image that upholds family values and fair play and everything else, and is this great kind of image of the United States. And yet when you look at the things we've done as a nation, we are no better than Saudi Arabia or any other dehumanizing regime out there, right? We've done all of these things ourselves. We have the highest incarceration rate of any country in the world. There is a mass shooting in our country daily, right? We incarcerate people of color at 3 to 5 times the rate we incarcerate white people. We had an insurrection not even 2 years ago. And we still can't decide that if we want to hold the person who initiated it and caused it, if we don't even know if we want to hold them accountable yet. Right? Who are we? We have a history of enslavement and genocide. Right? We have meddled in the politics of so many nations around the world. We have colonized huge portions of the globe. And this is what this nation represents. And we're talking about, oh, it's so bad that we're now aligning ourselves with nations like Saudi Arabia. I don't know what to say. We are no better. I'm not even sure who gets the sports washing effect more, if it's us or Saudi Arabia. We are literally no better than most of these nations, right? We just told women through our Supreme Court a year and a half ago that they do not have control over their own bodies. Right? I mean, we are just, our head is so unbelievably in the sand here when we think we hold some sort of moral supremacy over anyone else in this world. So the irony of this CNN article that's like, well, we really have to think about these things and what's going on and what it's like, no, we don't. This is who we are. We are no better than Saudi Arabia. We are not. And in many ways, trying to be behind them because we're clueless to what we're doing. Most nations are at least aware of what they're doing, and we're absolutely clueless. And so I found this fascinating. Right? I even just a quick Google search. Right, it literally was not even 15 years ago. Right, Augusta National did not allow Black members until the 1990s. And they didn't allow women members until 2012. And we're talking about how the PGA is cleaning up the reputation of Saudi Arabia. We are so unbelievably new at this idea of diversity and inclusion. We haven't even decided as a nation we want to stick with it. Looking at the rise of people like Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott and others like that, we're not even sure we're going to stick with this notion of diversity and inclusion and equality in this country. And it's a very, very new thing. Our foundations haven't even changed yet, right? We still don't mention women in our Constitution. Our Constitution still keeps enslavement legal in the prison system. It still states that Africans are 3/5 of a person. We are so unbelievably clueless about this stuff. And when you read these things, when you know our history, you know what we've done, and you know who we are as a nation, it's so difficult to stomach. And the fact that CNN wrote this, right, it just shows that this myth of American exceptionalism, it's a bipartisan value, right? Because they're trumpeting it just as loud as the right and Fox News is. No one really wants to speak the truth about these issues. So anyway, it's fascinating. I wanted to talk about these things. Everyone else in the world today is talking about Donald Trump and the charges brought against him. And I'm like, rather than talking about that, that's easy. Donald Trump is a buffoon, right? And his antics don't even count as news anymore. But when we look at what is going on in our world and how our country literally has its head in the sand, right? We're not even debating much about climate change right now. CNN tried to become centrist and they utterly failed. And we live in a nation that is so unbelievably blind to its own racism, sexism, and white supremacy that it thinks somehow the PGA is going to shine the image of the LIV. But everyone's going to just go on and scream about Trump and not recognize our complete lack of integrity and inability to do the right thing. So anyway, I wanted to highlight these stories today. There's a lot going on in the world. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, and all the other major news outlets are going to tell you to focus on Trump. But the focusing on Trump either does one of two things, right? For all of the people on the right and the MAGA people, it just further buries their head in the sand. And for all the people on the left, it just lets them point at someone to say, well, at least we're not as bad as that. And we never really have the conversation about these other issues and the changes we have to make as a nation. So anyway, my relatives, I hope these things are helpful. I really, I'm trying to get more regular about my second cups of coffee. Ideally, I like to do them on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but this week I did it on Friday. Just a quick update, my hip is continuing to heal well. I had a physical therapy appointment today, and I'm very grateful that my hip is feeling much better. I'm walking pretty much without a cane all the time, and I'm able to, I don't take any, I'm not even taking ibuprofen or Tylenol anymore. I'm able to be completely off of any sort of pain medication right now. So yeah, I'm moving around better. It's becoming stronger, and I'm still reminded I have some limitations on a daily basis when I move too quickly or try to do something I can't do. But I'm so grateful that I was able to have this surgery, and I'm so grateful that my recovery is going as well as it is. I want to remind you that through the end of this month, through the end of June, I am offering free shipping on copies of Unsettling Truths, signed copies that are ordered from my website. So if you have not purchased Unsettling Truths yet, or you'd like to give it to a friend, I encourage you to go to my website and order a signed copy of Unsettling Truths. And for the rest of this month, I am not charging any shipping. Also, if you would like to go deeper with me on some of these topics, either both for Q&As as well as just a deeper discussion about a lot of these topics, I invite you to consider subscribing to my Patreon. This is one of the best ways to not only go deeper and get more engagement with me, but also a great way to help support and fund the work that I'm trying to do, so that I can continue to put out this content. So I welcome you to both consider both of those, purchasing a signed copy of Unsettling Truths as well as possibly joining my Patreon. But anyway, my relatives, I'm so grateful to be able to spend this time with you today. I hope that these perspectives are helpful. I want to encourage and to continue to challenge you to read our news carefully and make sure that you're not being distracted from some of the important issues that we need to learn how to deal with as a nation. Walk in beauty, my relatives, and may we all learn how to walk in beauty together. Hakoanet.